What's going on, Jerome's? Taking a look at our defensive line, defensive tackle big boards today. And we're going to break this down into 3 techs and nose tackles because I think it's important to do that. Where you see overall big boards where they include 1 techs, 3 techs, 5 techs, 4 techs, all the techs together. It doesn't really help. And remember, this is specifically for the Vikings. Now, if we were talking about another team, the order might be different, but and the Vikings definitely need some help on the defensive interior. It was porous all season long. Yes, opt-out of Michael Pierce didn't help, but they never really satisfied that 3-tech spot. I mean, they refused to play James Lynch. Armand for Watts was Jaleel Johnson was definitely plus he's a free agent. I do like Hercules Mataafa, but he's a restricted free agent. TBD what happens there. So the Vikings need some size. They need some pass rush on the inside, and I think that the way that this defensive tackle class is structured, the Vikings can certainly hammer on that in the mid-round. So let's go through our top 10 3-techs, and then we'll get into nose tackles. First up, Christian Barmore. Yeah. And yes, as a redshirt sophomore, 6'5", 310, put up 34 pressures, 7 sacks, and 7.5 tackles for loss here. He's young and really is just scratching the surface of his potentials, because if you put in his redshirt freshman and sophomore years together, he's only started about a year's worth of games. And you did see him front and center just wrecking the college football playoff. He was borderline unblockable against Notre Dame, and then against Ohio State, he completely shut down that running game. So it was really impressive. Posted a 90.4 PFF grade this season, a 91.2 pass rush grade, and I think that he potentially could be the only defensive tackle taken in the first round. Does 14 seem a little rich? Maybe. But if the Vikings are in a trade down spot and they get into the mid-20s or later, I think that is extreme value for the pride of Alabama. Next up, number 2, Levi Onwuzurike. So here's what you do. When you come across the opinions of people that you really respect, and it's different than yours, you go back and take a look at the tape. And I really liked Levi Onwuzurike. I did see him as a late second round, early third round type guy, and then Daniel Jeremiah just blew up with his glowing praise of him. I think he even put him in the first round of his mock draft, and I think that he potentially could get slept on. And this is my own bias at work, because it really is, what have you done for us lately? And the fact that Onwuzurike did opt out, he's sort of out of sight, out of mind. But his 2019 tape, man, is just really, really good. Oh, by the way, if a player has 2 asterisks by their name, 2 stars by their name, that means there are 20 opt-outs. So Tufele, Twyman, Onwuzurike, etc. Tyler Shelvin, we'll get to in a sec. But, man, Onwuzurike's 2019 tape is really, really good. 31 pressures, 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, posted an 82.5 PFF grade. Now, I cannot get enough of that first step, man. It really is Allen Iverson just taking dudes off the dribble. He does have to fill out. I think he does have that frame where he can add a lot of good weight and strength. Has to get better against the run, but you do like the positional versatility as well. Played all along the defensive line for the Huskies, but I think that eventually he could come in and be the every down starting 3-tech for the Vikings, at minimum contributing right away in a pass rusher type role. So get that done. 3, Daviyon Nixon, the pride of Iowa, a redshirt junior, 6'3", 305, had 23 pressures, 5.5 sacks, 13.5 tackles for loss this season, a 72.9 PFF grade. He really blew up this year. He was sort of under the radar in 2019, former JUCO transfer, but phenomenal hands, strong on the inside, great penetrator as well. You do question. So 23 pressures, but did get home for 5.5 sacks. There is a little bit of puck luck there, and you do wonder, is like, okay, well, he only averaged about 3 or 4 pressures a game. You would like to ideally see more, but I think there's a lot of about Nixon there. 4, Marvin Wilson. So he's a guy that we've profiled, Florida State senior, 6'3", 319. Potentially could have came out last year and probably would have been a late first-round pick, because I think it would have been Derek Brown, it would have been Kinlaw, and then I think it might have been Marvin Wilson as the third defensive tackle off the board. But 26 pressures, 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss this year in a quote-unquote down year. 90.7 PFF grade last season. He's a 5-star where he had his best years in 2018, 2019. Did have the best hands in the class. Plays a little bit tall, and you saw that at the Senior Bowl. Had a bit of an up and down week overall, but I think that he is a guy that the fact that his 2020 season was sort of I think that he could potentially fall a little bit, and the Vikings could potentially seize on him maybe at the top end of the third round. Next up, number 5, Jay Tufele. He's another one of the out of sight, out of mind guys, where Tufele, I really like him as a well-rounded defensive tackle, redshirt junior, 6'3", 315. Had 26 pressures, 3.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss in 2019, as well as posted a 90.7 PFF grade, 92.1 against the run. A really thick anchor. Nice all-around defensive tackle, can beat double teams, solid against the run. And we saw this comp a while ago. Diet Leonard Williams, I could buy into that. And it's more than just scouting the helmet, but yeah, what he brings to the table, I think that his best position might be like a 5-tech, a 3-4 defensive end. But if the Vikings want to incorporate multiple fronts, I think Tufele is the guy for that. 6, Alim McNeill. And see, this is the problem with the defensive tackle class this year, where I would probably put 7 guys above Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M last year, ended up going to the Ravens, where I don't know if a single one is going to go first round. So it's a defensive tackle class that is bunched up in the terms of like second round value guys, and Alim McNeill is one of those guys as well, where I wouldn't be shocked if he goes second round. I wouldn't be shocked if he fell to the top of the fourth round. But NC State junior, 6'2", 315, 12 pressures, 1 sack, 4.5 tackles for loss this year. Really nice anchor. His best season was 2019, where he had 5.5 sacks and 7.5 tackles for loss. But really raw, can be moldable by Andre Patterson. Does play a little bit high, a little bit inconsistent at times. Now, if he flattens that out, I think he has a chance to be one of the better defensive tackles in this class. Next up, number 7. So Jaylen Twyman, man. Jaylen Twyman, pride of Pitt, redshirt junior, 6'2", 290. Had 36 pressures, 10.5 tackles for loss, 12 sacks in 2019 as a redshirt sophomore, a 74.6 PFF grade. And I love Twyman, man. I do. Like, he really busted out last season, opted out this year. Now, he is a bit of a one-trick defensive tackle for now. It really is that penetrating first step. Does need to fill out, does need to get a little bit better against the run, but Man. I really do like Twyman. I think that he potentially could fall because of his one-dimensionness as well as his 2020 opt-out. 8, Darius Stills, the pride of West Virginia, senior, 6'1", 281. A little bit undersized, but also I want to say it's really cool that he and his brother Dante are both going to be drafted in this draft, where Dante is probably going to be a day 3 selection. I think Darius could be a mid-round type guy. High motor, probably has the highest motor of any defensive tackle in this draft. He is a lot like Twyman, where he is undersized, but I mean, just having the ability to break double teams, blow up a gap is going to be a skill that's really important here. I did have 6 sacks and 12 tackles for loss in 2019, so did have a better season 2 years ago. 9, Osa Odighizuwa, the pride of UCLA, senior, 6'3", 315. Now, he was the star of the Senior Bowl. He really was. 25 pressures, 5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. And for his size, he does play with really good anchor and really good leverage. I think that his frame would support putting on a little bit more weight. Solid against the run, a tenacious penetrator. Now, is his best position a 5-tech and a 3-4? It's possible, but you do have that versatility where you can play him inside and outside. He does have experience in both spots. Plus, how we know that Rick just loves him some UCLA guys. Yeah. Lastly, number 10. So, not a traditional 3-tech, but I had to include Bobby Brown III, coming out of Texas A&M, junior, 6'4", 325. Now, he did play a little bit more 1-tech, but he is a bit of a hybrid defensive tackle. 17 pressures, 5.5 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss. Was really impressive since he played mostly nose tackle for the Aggies. 77 PFF grade, a 78.4 PFF grade against the run. Now, I really do like him because if we want to add size, if we want to add beef, and we're going to make this argument when we talk about nose tackles as well, you have to just add dudes this massive. Now, I love Twyman, I love Stills, but I love Onwuzurike, but there's just something about size where you're not going to be pushed around. Now, he hybrid 1-tech, but has the athleticism to play 3-tech, especially on early downs, especially on running situations as well. Next up, the nose tackles. Oh, Bobby Brown III is a good segue to nose tackles. So I'll put Brown, don't know, probably fifth on this list in terms of straight up nose tackles, but actually might be even higher. But number one, Tyler Shelvin, 2020 opt-out LSU redshirt junior, 6'3", 362, had 6 pressures last season. 80.4 PFF grade, 88.3 against the run. Now, yeah, the run grades are what's important. Any sort of pass rush is mainly a bonus when it comes to nose tackles. And I know what you're saying. Well, we have Michael Pierce. Why would you want another nose tackle? Does hurt to have two. Also, goal line packages. I want size and thickness down on the defensive line. So, yeah, play multiple nose tackles at once. Yeah, give me that nice. Now, Shelvin could be the baby Vince Wilfork of this draft, where he has lots of experience playing one tech, two gapping, both of those A gaps, and he unfortunately will go day 2 as a lot like a 2-down middle linebacker or a 2-down running back. It just doesn't have the positional value that it used to. Unless you're Dave Gettleman of the Giants taking Dexter Lawrence, even though Dexter Lawrence is a hell of a player, man. But an absolute team player, body absorber, not an ounce of ego, is going to help out your linebackers. I really do like Tyler Shelvin. Next up, number 2, Tedarrell Slaton, TJ, coming out of Florida, senior, nailed it, 6'5", 358. Now, a lot like Ben Cleveland, a lot like David Moore, like there are guys who wear 350 differently. And Slaton is one of those guys. 12 pressures, 1.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss this season, 70.3 PFF grade, 66.5 against the run. Now, he is my early draft crush, and he can be inconsistent, but you love the motor. Like, you will find highlights of him just chasing down dudes down the field, and nose tackles don't do that. Taking great pursuit angles, but he does remind me a little bit of a young Linval, where he's a guy that gets after it. He's going to be a surprising pass rusher. He had 2 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss in 2019. And I think that even though we have him at 2, I think that he might be the 4th or 5th nose tackle off the board. So I think the Vikings might find some value for him in the 4th round. 3, Tommy Togiai out of Ohio State, junior, 6'2", 300 pounds. Alpha in the A-gaps, handles his business, 87.5 PFF grade, 87.8 against the run this year. And he was a guy that struggled with his decision to come back to school or go to the NFL, but I think it is time. A little bit undersized for a true nose tackle, but an absolute A-gap monster, and I think that he will be a real asset wherever he lands. Number 4, Naquan Jones, coming out of Michigan State. He is Spartan, redshirt senior, 6'4", 330, 11 pressures and 5 tackles for loss this season, 64.7 PFF grade, 69.2 against the run. Great athlete. He just never really played to his potential. Like, he never really progressed. Like, he came on as a freshman.